Get started.
We're at
Recording in
6:08,
progress.
So I feel comfortable that we can begin the River Valley's Unified School District Reorganization and regular board meeting on June 6th, 2022. It is my pleasure to open the meeting as the superintendent, and my first order of business will be to ask for nominations. They do not need a second for chairperson of the River Valley's Unified School District Board.
I'd like to nominate Richard Warner.
All right, thank you, Mark. We have a nomination for Richard for chair. We can have multiple nominations, so just pausing and waiting.
I move to close nominations.
Wow, I've never had to deal with that.
You need a second.
Okay. I'll wait for a second then.
Sorry, who moved?
Laura.
Laura moved to close nominations, and I think
Good,
Dwight's
thank
going
you.
to say something here.
No, thinking whether or not I need a second, but I don't, right? Oh, I need a second to close the nominations. I'll do that. Is that what you're asking?
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Dwight. All right, so nominations for chair have been closed. We have one nomination for Richard Werner. All those in favor of Richard Werner being elected chair will do it by roll call because we are a hybrid meeting. So I'll start in the top. Mark, the nominator.
Point of order. You need to take a vote on the motion
Closing.
to close.
Oh, thanks. No, thanks. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to vote to close the nomination for chair. Roll call. Dwight,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Richard,
I'll abstain.
Kate,
Aye.
and Mark.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4, Peter, and 1 abstention. All right, now I can go to the election of the chair. The nominator, Mark, you get to go first.
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll go to Dwight,
Aye.
and then Kate,
Aye.
and then Laura,
Aye.
and Richard.
I'll abstain.
Okay, the ayes have it. Mr. Werner, you are now the chair of the RVUSD board, and I will pass off the meeting to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your vote of confidence. So our next item is election of the vice chair. And do we have any nomination? Oh, Chad's here. Let's give Chad 1 second to connect.
There.
I think he's connecting. Oh, he's connected. Okay. So, Chad, we just had an election for the chairperson, and we're going to be we're looking at nominations for the vice chairman of the River Valley's
Yeah.
school district.
Rick?
Yep. Go ahead, Mark.
I'll nominate myself for the position.
Okay. So we have a nomination for Mark.
And I'll
We don't need a
nominate
second.
Kate.
Okay. Laura's going to nominate Kate. Mark, you must accept because you nominated yourself. Kate, do you accept nomination for chair, vice chair?
I do.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, now this is going to be very interesting, folks.
How do we do it?
How do you vote? Because you usually vote by paper ballot.
You have to do roll call on a hybrid, don't you?
Well, unless it's a unanimous decision.
Can you open up the chat and do it via chat or like email to Bill or something?
Mark and Kate, you were the two that were going to have a vote on. How would you feel comfortable if we sent a chat direct to Bill and let Bill do the counting?
I don't know if Matt can just turn the chat on. We probably have to do it by email.
Yeah, once the meeting's running, the chat
Okay.
is disabled.
Okay. Bill, can
to
you
stop the
accept emails at home while, is Bill still here?
Yes.
Peter said the chat is on via chat.
It is on.
Oh, it is on? Okay, the chat is on, I guess. No?
Yeah, it is on. It is on.
Okay, the chat is on. Is Bill still here?
Yeah, Bill's here, man.
Can we send chat to you to vote? Kate and Mark, are you good with that?
Well, so chat would go live onto this Zoom and email would come to me. So it's a binary choice there.
Okay,
No, you can send a chat just to Bill.
so,
I think email is a better record.
Thank you, Laura. You're right.
Yeah, but
so email, I don't disagree with Mark. Email would be a better record. Mark and Kate,
email?
yeah, Mark and Kate, how do you feel? You guys good with that, or do you want to? How do you want to do this? It's the two of you.
I'm fine with email.
Kate, are you good with that?
Whichever technology works, I'm fine with.
Okay, why doesn't everybody email Bill? Chad, can you email while you're remote too?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and Dwight, you can email, right?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so we have two nominations. We have Mark and we have Kate. So just, if you guys would email to Bill, either Mark or Kate, then we will, we'll let Bill do the counting.
You guys good?
I think I am.
Got the flip phone.
New
You
style
can email
flip
on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go-
Oh, yeah,
go
that's
away.
right. That's right. I
I don't
forgot.
even like you
Camera phone and
anymore.
everything.
You love me. All right.
Yeah, I just have to figure
Rich
it out.
made it to the 21st century.
It's a smart flip phone. And it's all because of you, Mark.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And okay, the problem is he's not on my phone. W. Anton at WCSU.com.
WindhamCentral.org.
Central. Hush. WindhamCentral.org. And there's no W period Anton, it's just W Anton.
Correct.
Wonton.
A-N-T-O-N, yeah.
Okay. Bill,
Text Bill.
Yes, sir.
are you all set?
I am all set. I
So-
have I have received 6 votes. And I do have a vice chair. That would be Kate Rideout.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mark and Kate, for running. Our next election is for the clerk. This is the one that the sheriff's gonna come looking for when when we're getting served papers. And Dwight, I believe, was our clerk last year. Do we have a nomination for clerk?
I nominate Dwight Borum for clerk.
Do we have any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Dwight being clerk, say aye.
You need to do a roll call vote.
Well, no, I haven't been doing roll call votes as long as it appears to be unanimous, so I'm just trying to save time.
I would think for an election, though.
We just did an election without a roll call vote and without.
No, we did it, we did 2
Okay.
votes, so. Mark, go ahead, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Kate, you're next on the list.
Aye.
Dwight,
Aye.
Chad, Laura?
Aye.
Chair will go with the majority, so it's a unanimous vote. Ah, shoot. Okay. Authorize signatures, and this is what we've done in the past is if we don't have a meeting and we need to pay bills, we've usually had the chair or the vice chair is allowed to sign on behalf of the board and then we usually bring it to the board at the next warned meeting and we have a discussion and then approve it kind of after the fact. So authorize signatures, if somebody would like to make a motion to have it be the chair and the vice chair.
So moved.
Okay, so Laura moved it. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Chad seconds it. Is there any discussion? Okay, on these, I'm not going to do a roll call vote unless it doesn't appear to be unanimous. And I always give a space of time in between. If you don't feel it's unanimous, just speak up. So all those in favor of the chair and vice chair being the authorized signatures, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
It appears to be unanimous. It is unanimous. Moving on, paper of record. We've usually used the Brattleboro Reformer because they print 6 days a week. It used to be 7. And we also notify the Deerfield Valley News because they do cover our meetings and they do, they are kind of the local paper even for Wardsboro, Dover, and Wilmington. So I would need a nomination. I need somebody to move a papers of record, please.
So moved.
I would move, okay.
Will you second, Mark?
It's the reformer, right, Laura? That's what you mean?
Yes.
Yes, I will second that.
We also notify
And
the
we
Valley
notified
News.
the Valley News, yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous vote. It is a unanimous vote. Meeting times and dates. So we have been doing the first Mondays in Dover and the third Mondays in Wardsboro. And we got a little messed up because of the annual meeting and how we try to do the meeting the town we're not going to be meeting in before the annual meeting. And we've been starting either 6 or 6:30. It bounces around a little bit. This just reserves a meeting night for us. It doesn't mean we have to meet every first and third Mondays, but it also helps the superintendent's office and his people plan in advance for that. So would somebody like to make a motion to the meeting nights?
Yeah, I'll move that we meet first and third Mondays at 6 p.m.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Laura seconded it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears to be unanimous decision. It is. Appointment of truant officer in Dover, it's easy. We have the Dover Police. We have in the past asked the Dover chief if they would be willing to work with Wardsboro, and he said that as long as there's no pressing matters in Dover, he would be able to help out. So we would normally make a motion to approve the Dover Police Department to be our truant officer. Bill, who do you guys use for like West River and stuff? Sheriff. Is it the sheriff?
Windham County Sheriff.
Okay. So,
I move that we appoint the Dover Police as the truant officer.
I'll second.
thank you, Mark. Thank you, Laura. So we have a motion for the Dover Police Department to be the truant officer. Matt, what do you call them? About 22 times a day? Week? Okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous decision. It is unanimous. WCSU Policy Committee member. So we've asked that each board appoint a representative from their board to the WCSU Policy Committee. So last year, Mark filled that role for us, as he also fills the role as the River Valley Policy Chair, along with Kate as another member. So I need a nomination for Policy Committee member for WCSU.
Can that person be someone other than one of the three that are the voting members?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do you still want it? Would you still like to do it, Mark?
I'll do it.
So
I was just
moved.
curious.
Okay, so Laura moved for Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Chad because he was bouncing down the road when he did that. So we have a motion and a second for Mark. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. WCSU representatives. So in the last couple years, I believe it's been myself, Mark, and Dwight.
I would move that we appoint Rich, Mark, and Dwight as WCSU representatives.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Dwight, are you still able to serve?
I can.
Okay, Mark, I would imagine since you moved it, you're good?
No.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean
See how-
good, but you're good to serve, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for Rich, Mark, and Dwight. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
I apologize, can you give me the mover and seconder?
So Mark moved and Laura seconded,
Thank you.
and all voted in favor. It was a unanimous decision. So the next thing it says to do is update current new board members, but we don't have any. Next thing we had, Mark had brought up, and we had a and we said that we would discuss it more in depth at the reorganizational meeting. So Mark had brought up the fact that he was, and then we'll get to that other thing. I got additions and deletions to the agenda. So it used to be that you would vote to use Robert's rules as how you would run the meeting. And then several years ago, the legislature just said, you're going to use Robert's rules unless you vote something different. So we do have the ability to do what they call small board rules, which is, I think it was under 12 members, fewer than 12 members. And they choose to operate less formally using the Roberts rules for small board systems as outlined in the next page. So if you had in your package, there was page 63 and 64, and 65 and 65, 3 pages, plus the picture on the front, which didn't copy that well, about Robert's rules for small boards. So I think, Mark, you said that there was some concern you had with this, that something was different, or was the...
No, I will move that we operate under Robert's rules for small boards.
Okay, is there a second to that? I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mark and a second by Chad, so we now have discussion. So go ahead, Mark, you made the motion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear cut. We already do. We just have to make the decision to do it. Even in this Xerox copy, I think on the 3rd page at the bottom, it says, note of caution, if your board elects to operate more informally, it's important that the board members agree on this during an organizational board reorganization, or I think I threw in an extra word there, but you know what I mean.
That's on that 3rd page, Mark, you said?
It's on the page that says Robert's Rules, procedures for small boards.
Oh,
at the top.
okay, yep,
It's in italics in the middle of the page.
right, I see it.
So, yeah, I just think we need to vote to do it, that's all. And I will just note that This Xerox is from the 2015 Essentials Workbook. A 2022 version is out. And I'm assuming, I haven't seen it, I'm assuming it references the 12th edition of Robert's Rules, where this references the 11th, I'm sorry, the 10th.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're the same for section 4921, which is the one that we're voting on.
Go ahead.
So,
And then Dwight, I'll get to you next.
so my question is, what is the problem that we are solving by going to this?
That we weren't officially operating under these rules.
No, I think we're operating under regular Robert's rules, right?
Correct.
And I think we can operate under regular Robert's rules, correct?
We can, we don't, but we can.
Yeah, so these are different rules than the ones that we operate under now.
I believe they are the ones we operate under.
No, I think this allows for members do not need to be recognized by the chair. And no limit to the number of times a member can speak to a question, motions to close or limit generally not entertained. This is a much more informal means of board operation. I don't think that we have a problem currently with how our board operates. I am, in today's day and age, I am not necessarily in favor of creating more informality on our boards. I think we are seeing the need to have good governance, predictable governance. And I'm not, I'm happy to hear a reason that this solves a problem that we are having, kind of an urgent problem. But in the absence of that, I'm opposed to doing this. I don't think it's necessary.
So,
Well, Mark, let me have Chad and then we'll get back to you.
okay.
Go ahead, Chad, because you seconded the motion and I should have let you speak.
Thank you, Rich. Was brought before us,
Chad,
Laura, during one of the meetings that you were
Chad,
unable to
can
attend because
you
your
turn off your
legislative
video?
duties. And I think, yep.
Thank you.
The informality, before Marc, thank you. I think one of the small elements was that in official Robert's rules, that the members are to stand when addressing the board. And also I think it was the number of times that a member is able to speak. So there are a couple nuances, and I agree that we bring this to the table, that the way we do operate better reflects what are the informal rules versus the more formal rules. And therefore, to codify that we are indeed following these is really, it is procedural. It doesn't change anything in how we operate, but it does, from my experience, as short as it is, it does seem that we are following more the letter of the informal Robert's rules that has been brought forward.
So, okay, hang on a second. Laura spoke, Mark spoke, and Chad spoke. Did anybody else want to speak to this before we go for round two? Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, mine was question kind of similar to Laura's. Was what exactly what are we doing wrong? Exactly. And I, other than the chair having to stand or things like that seem like kind of trivial. And my only concern, my biggest concern actually it seems like motions don't need to be seconded, and that's something that we have had issues with where we haven't moved forward without a second. I think that's a good process. Not to have a motion seconded could be an issue, because it's kind of nice to have a second. That way we can move on. But if motions are made without a second, that seems like that's a major change that could cause some issues.
Kate, do you have any comments before we move on?
Just that I agree with what Laura and Dwight are saying. I think while we're not, following it to the letter, like we're not standing when we speak, that also doesn't make sense in our current environment. And I feel like we have a really good, respectful culture right now, and I'm hesitant to change that and make it more informal.
So I'm going to say one more thing, and then Mark, I'm going to go back to you, and then Laura. Bill, you got to help me out. So we have a executive committee meeting every week during the height of COVID, and we do it more informally now. And we actually were discussing this at the executive committee meeting. It was interesting to hear from a legislator that if you do something informally for a period of time, it becomes more formal. I forget exactly what was said. And I think the biggest changes are, I did ask about this. We talked about this at the moderators meeting back in February about, standing. And one of the things that was brought up is it's not so much the standing, because somebody wanted to make a point. They had a person who couldn't stand, so they didn't want to allow them to speak. And it was not that the standing is that you actually stand. It's a standing that you've been recognized to speak. So there are a few other nuances. So Mark is correct. We do more or less run by the informal rules. So that's, I think, where he was coming from. But Bill, what was the?
Emily was sharing that in her role as a presiding officer, that when you have a long-standing practice that is repeated over time, that becomes a precedent, and then that is the way that the body should operate.
Custom, okay. Mark, go ahead.
So point one, Mr. Chairman, you would not have been allowed to make your statement under Robert's rules. It is because we operate under Robert's rules for small boards that you are able to speak on discussions. Under Robert's rules, you also would never be allowed to vote except to break a tie. And that is not the case. There are times when you do choose to vote. Not often, but you do. And I'll just read you number 5 on this list of 7 items from the 12th edition. When a proposal is perfectly clear to all present, a vote can be taken without a motions having been introduced. Unless agreed to by unanimous consent, however, all proposed actions must be approved by vote under the same rules as larger meetings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do that, not often, but there are certainly times when Rich will call for a vote or take a semi-informal vote without motions being made. So we operate under these, the seconded of the motions. That's one of 7 that we don't, of the 7 here that we don't operate under. So I think we are in violation of Robert's rules the way we operate now. That is the problem that I am looking to fix. And I don't believe that this is adding any informality, because it's what we already do.
Okay, you said, Mark?
Just one last thing.
Yep.
I don't believe that this board has been in existence long enough for there to be precedents set for a quote unquote custom.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe that there are actually very significant changes in how we do operate that are proposed here in small boards. Paying attention to some of the activity that we see across our state and country. I think it's a mistake at this time to introduce an increased level of informality at our board meetings. We have very respectful, I think, as our vice chair has categorized it, meetings that are understood, the procedures. Our chair, who is not only our longstanding chair of this board, but the longstanding chair of our supervisory union, and the moderator, who is required to attend Robert's Rules training, has been running this board, the other board, and portions of our town meeting for a number of years using Robert's Rules. And we do have some customs on this board that that we have informally adopted over time. I think the Dover School is 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old. I'm not sure. 100 years old. So I think that is plenty of time for the adoption. I'm hoping that it sounds like there's not enough support for this. So I'm hoping that we can move past this. And so I will not be supporting this.
Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Thing.
Go ahead, Dwight.
I just, I'm not sure, but I'd like to, sorry to put you on the spot, Rich, but as the chair and the person who's been chair for quite some time and also understands Robert's Rules of Order, to get your opinion on this. I know you normally don't do that and kind of wait for us all to vote, but could you give us some guidance on what your opinion is of how we're operating and which way we should go?
That's why I usually, and I'll vote on certain things, like, when we voted to fight Act 60, I made a motion in that just because we thought it would make sense as a political thing, as a publicity issue. I usually don't vote because I want you guys to have a lot to say. I will give you some background in history. I will say that one of the things I've taken away from the moderators' meetings, and I've said this to you all before, and I brought this up several different times, that I can make all the rulings I want, but you folks, the other 5 of you, get to decide if we're doing something wrong, or if I'm doing something that you feel is inappropriate, then you can challenge me. You can say, I don't think that's right, or I don't think that's appropriate. And if the majority votes that it isn't, then we will not do it. So if I said, Dwight, you can't talk anymore, I've heard enough from you, and you say, I don't think that's right, then I could say to everybody, do you all want to hear more from Dwight? And then, the group, we get to vote and tell me what they want to do. Marc is correct. If you're going to go by the exact letter of the law, we kind of blend them a little bit, but we've also been doing that for a lot of years because it seems to work. We don't make you make a motion because a lot of times that doesn't make sense. Because what do? Every time we want to have a discussion, Matt wants to talk about a field trip. Do we have to make a motion to allow Matt to talk about the field trip? So yeah, technically we are not we're not following it to the letter of the law, but we've also have never done anything. Anytime we've ever been challenged, we've prevailed. So, but times are changing. So I hope that helped you a little bit.
Thank you, Rich.
Go ahead, Marc. Let me just see. Is there anybody else for round 2? Okay, Marc, you can have round 3. You can start it off, sir.
So I believe in the rule of law. If we are not operating under the rules of small boards, I'm going to request that we operate under Robert's rules as written.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
Yes.
You get your good time.
Yep. I also believe in following the rules of law. So, and I still do not support this.
Anybody else? Okay, are you ready to vote? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody from the public that'd like to weigh in? I see that we got a lot of people tonight. I don't see anybody wanting to weigh in. If you're all ready to vote. So Peter, can you please read the motion back? I believe, Marc, it was, and I'll get
There's a hand.
Yeah, I'll get to you in a second. Peter, can you please read the motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Schauber moved. Well, I didn't write the verbatim, but move that the small board rule. Mr. Schauber moved that the board adopt the small board rules as provided in the board documents packet.
Uh,
Yeah, I think, go ahead, Mark.
I move that we operate under Robert's rules for small boards.
Yeah, it's procedures for small boards. And I believe, Dwight, you seconded that, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, there's a little bit ago. Stephanie, go ahead.
I got it verbatim.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Rich. I am concerned definitely about a change that would allow for a single board member to make a motion without it being seconded by another board member. I feel that then I agree with what Laura is saying, that based on things that are happening right now around us in our country, we need to keep as much formality. And I would be curious to hear if the members on the board who are against the motion would be willing to adopt the more formal rules.
Well, we don't have a choice to adopt the more formal rules. They're adopted. We are required to follow them unless we adopt that. And that was Mark's point. In the old, we used to adopt them. We've actually had this discussion probably 5 different times in my career.
So is it something that the board is willing to do in the more formal way that Marc is suggesting, or what are the ramifications if the board does not operate following Robert's rule to the letter of?
That's going to be very interesting. I don't know.
I guess I have another question.
There are some other school boards in this state that are currently dealing with the ramifications of exactly that, of not operating under the rules as written in Robert's rules. And that's what I would like to avoid, any chance of that. And if the issue,
Mark, hang on one second. We're still going to play that the board chair gets to say who speaks. So Stephanie, you asked your question. So hang on. Mark is answering your question for you, okay? And then we'll get back to you. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, for the most part, I think I answered it. What I was going to say is that if somebody wants to make an amendment to require a second on motions, I'd be fine with that.
Okay. Steph, you all set? Dwight, hang on.
I have a question. So I'm wondering what these ramifications are that the other boards are experiencing. And the second part of that is that I am only commenting about the one thing that was brought up that Laura had brought up about the seconding of motions. I'm not familiar, as I doubt many of the public are familiar with the rules, to know what other concerns we might have about how this board is run.
So if we make a decision as a board and somebody wants to challenge it, it can be challenged that we didn't make the decision properly. And I think that's what Mark is talking about, because I have seen a few of those cases. Mark, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is there something else, or?
No, that's it. Just lawyers get involved, which becomes costly, and it can become a mess.
Okay, so Stephanie, I'm going to move on. Are you all set?
Yes, thank you, Rich, and thank you, board.
Thank you. Alan, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Yeah. I can just hear an echo. Yeah, look, I'm sort of on the same page as Stephanie, and I can't unremember that the only recent meeting I've been on, which was 3 weeks ago, where a motion went unseconded by Marc and failed because it was unseconded. So I mean, that's sort of stands out as glaring, but it seems clear that if there's a problem, just like with that other thing that we discussed, if there's a problem, it would be worthwhile to compare the different sections, make a little table, and share with the public and discuss it, so we know what we're talking about. So it's not like, hey, you should go read Robert's rules and figure it out there. You know, you guys make a decision with implications, but without the information other than, oh, it's in a book. So if there's a problem, identify the problem, and let's figure out the difference between the two different orders, and then make an informed decision rather than sort of an ad hoc one. That's all.
So the Mark has identified the problem or what he sees as could be a problem. And we've given out most of the information. The board's had the information. We've discussed it previously to this. Mark brought it up. So,
Well, the problem that if you don't do things correctly, then the lawyers will come. That's true. And it doesn't matter which rules you have, but you got to follow them. The lawyers will come. Yeah.
okay.
You know?
Thank you, Alan. So I think we've had some more discussion. There was a suggestion that there could be a solution to the issue. It would require amending the motion. If somebody would like to amend the motion, we could do that, or we can just go to a vote. It's up to you folks. Alan, are you still all set? I'm sorry, your hand's still up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you, sir. So are you ready to vote, or? I don't know, something's beeping.
That's power collection.
Okay. If you're all ready to vote, and I think, Peter, you're good with the motion, right? You got it?
I got it word for word.
Thank you. So the motion's to operate under Robert's procedures for small boards. All those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, no, I'm taking back my aye.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
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 Okay.
Okay, it is not a unanimous vote, so I'm going to do a roll call vote. Chad, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dwight, you're next.
Nay.
Kate,
Nay.
Mark,
Yay.
is that kind of like an aye?
Yeah, it's an aye, it's a yes, it's a bunch of other things.
Go ahead, Laura.
No.
Okay, so I have 2 ayes and 3 nays. Chair's vote will go with the majority. So the motion doesn't carry.
Point of order,
Go ahead, Mark.
you can't vote.
I didn't vote.
Yes, you did.
No, the chair's votes usually go with the majority under Robert's rules.
But that's making a choice.
No, my choice is I could vote to create a tie. I'm choosing not to vote, so my vote counts as with the. But you know what? Well, Bill, can you check that with the attorney, please?
Rich, can I make a statement or?
Go ahead, Dwight.
I just want to thank Mark for bringing this to our attention. I think that he made some excellent points. There's definitely some things in there that we may not be doing right or could be doing better and I wonder if we can, try to work on this a little bit more to kind of maybe find some kind of middle ground where we could amend, like Mark was saying, amend the small boards rules to a way which all we're comfortable with. I'm not sure what that process would look like, but maybe we do some more investigation into it.
Well, and I think we could. I think what we could do is vote to adopt the small board method with requiring that there be seconds to any motions. And I think that would make everybody happy.
Well, there might be more to it than that. I wasn't comfortable voting in the affirmative just by that one amendment. So maybe there's other things we could, kind of review. I'd like to look at it. I'm happy to do that, and I will.
Well,
maybe
so here's what's happening in July. I believe it's July. Bill, wherever you are we not meeting with the attorney in July for board training?
It's July 14th.
And this is one of the topics to be discussed, correct?
It's one that you have asked me to have them address, and I have made that request.
So come to the meeting on July 14th at 4 to 6?
5 to 7.
5 to 7.
Yeah.
July 14th.
Yes.
Bastille Day?
Yes. We're going to have French salad there, I guess. I don't know. No, I believe it's July 14th, 5 to 7, and it's via Zoom.
It's correct.
Okay. What? Oh, go
Is
ahead.
that a public meeting or private?
No, it's a board,
That makes sense. Thank you. Just wanted to.
it's a board training, right, Bill?
It is a board training and it is not a warned board meeting.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Can you request or ask the attorney whether we can switch and adopt small boards rules during a meeting that is not an organizational meeting?
I'm pretty sure we can, because we've had to take up other things in midstream.
I'm just going by what it says in that manual.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can, but Bill, can we just, actually, Bill doesn't need to do it. Peter, would you
Yes.
note in the minutes, we want to ask on the training on the 14th about the chair votes or not votes. Do they count his votes as with the majority or not? And can we switch or readopt outside of the reorganizational meeting? Can we change what rules we work under?
Yes, I captured Mr. Schauber's questions on that.
Mark, is that good, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have additions, deletions to the agenda. Mark has a statement he'd like to read, and Laura needs to just address the board for a sec.
Yeah, so we are done reorganizing.
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. Mark has his hand up.
Oh, yes, Mark.
I have other additions to the agenda.
Let Laura speak first, okay, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay.
So I think if we're done reorganizing, I have to leave. My father-in-law has passed. It was expected. It was a blessing, and I apologize, but I did want folks to know that I have to leave.
Did you want to say anything about, because we had you down for waiting study update, but Mark is also handling unless you.
I think Mark has got that covered,
Okay,
and so do you.
thank you.
You can speak to the work from the town. Thank you.
Condolences, Laura.
Mark, go ahead.
I want to, I don't care where you put it. I've got a list of VSBA training dates and meeting dates that I'd like to announce. And I'd like to have a discussion on possibility of building some outdoor, like an outdoor pavilion for education, for outdoor classroom, covered classroom.
Okay. I would say, Mark, we have future meeting, usually next meeting, so that would be good to do the VSBA dates. Is that okay?
Yep.
And then the building, the outdoor pavilion, that would probably be best under new business.
Okie dokie.
And usually under new business, we let anybody speak about anything. Is there any other changes, additions, et cetera to the? Okay, if you guys would allow me a little movement in the agenda too, I wanted to just, we've got Lori here. I asked her for one specific thing because we were having a discussion about how to, when we do the method for expenditures and suggestions. So, oops, are you okay? So we get a big packet of bills to approve, and Mark had made a request, I think, about it's a little bit unwielding. And the issue is though that we have 5 boards in the district, and the office does them all in one way. So Mark, could you just speak? You've had a suggestion, I think, or you had a question. I can't remember. But we wanted to we got this on the agenda because we discussed it before, but Lori couldn't be there, and I asked her to come tonight.
All right. Hey, Lori, good to see you. Very simple. I think the second file that you guys send over is the reports and checks. If we can just have the reports as a separate file. My belief is that the reports should be part of the public packet. I don't think we need to be sending out checking account numbers and everything out to the public. If the public wants to review them, they can request to review them. But that's also 100 some odd page document for somebody to download. I think the last one was 80 pages or something.
Rich, can I go ahead and speak to that?
Yes, I'm sorry, Lori, go ahead.
Sure. So I'm a little concerned about what you're talking about with a public packet. I'm happy to split the report from the packet. And that should be the only thing the public sees. The public should not be seeing necessarily the backup documents. They all have student names in occasion, and they have bills that have healthcare information on them. That should not be part of public record. That probably breaks a lot of HIPAA rules. We send you a report that gives the detail of where things are being charged in the budget, the amount and the vendor. And I think that that is exactly what the public needs to see. They don't need to see that X employee is on which healthcare plan, right? So it makes me a little bit nervous when you say part of the public record. And then, you know, we do this for 5 different districts. And we also have a procedure where we scan everything when we do that for all of them to the board. Typically, it's only actually a couple of board members that review the packet, not the entire board, but it's fine. We email it out to the board, and then it goes up into a space that we have for our auditors. So our auditors want the complete package when they look at things. So that's our procedure and process. But we could email you just those 2, 3, I think it's usually 3 to 4 pages of the cash requirements report that you sign off on.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, which is exactly why I brought this up. Those other documents don't need to be part of the public record. As it is, what I do is I take the file that we're sent and I split it up so that all I'm putting online is the reports. It's actually 2 different reports, I think. The check register listing, I forget exactly what they are, but it's part of the large checks file.
Can I show a couple reports, and let's just make sure this is Lori, can you get close to this without getting close to me?
Yeah, I can tell by the way the columns are that's the cash requirements report that is on top of the packet.
Right.
I'm happy to separate that. I'm not happy to separate the checks and then the backup and then the report. You know, it's just, we have a lot of scanning that has to happen. And
so this report that says general fund checking, River Valley's checking account general fund, that looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that also gets sent out to us too, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but this doesn't actually say what it's, I mean, it doesn't give like how much is going, it has a tuition number, but it doesn't have who the tuition is for. I mean, you know, where it's going, but not who it's covering tuition for. So that's okay for us to go out too, right?
That can go on for the public. That's absolutely fine. That in the cash requirements report, because that cash requirements report should not have names on it.
Okay, then what's this last one? It's the check register?
Yeah, that's what I'm calling the cash requirements report.
Okay. Mark, are you on the same page?
I think we're on the exact same page.
Okay.
All I'm asking is that those are separate PDF when they get sent over to us. That is it.
Okay, that's great. So I will have them send those reports, and then they'll send the entire packet that we normally put up for our auditors. So great.
So just for some history, folks, you know, one of the reasons this was happening is because of COVID. We used to all sit at a table and we would pass them around, and they would never get faxed or emailed or sent to anybody other than, you know, it would get sent to the school for us to look at. So again, the checks are, sometimes it's easier to look at the checks versus some of these registers, because for one check, there's like 20 entries and stuff. So I don't think it's a big thing if we're all good on the same page. I think that's, Mark, you're happy. You brought it up, and Lori, you're all set.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And then what you're putting online, Mark, is just those reports. You're not putting details on.
No, I have not been.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I split the file, so I'm not putting the details on.
Okay, I thought from the way you first said it that you were, so gave me a little heart attack, that's all.
Yeah, I have the knowledge and the know-how to split the PDF up. Not everybody would, so.
Awesome.
I wouldn't. Okay, so is everybody okay with that? And then Lori, the only other thing is, and I don't know if this is more a thing, a bill thing, or if it should be a board thing, but when I was looking through the bills that you sent out last time, I noticed the Wardsboro solar question or Wardsboro solar bill. So I noticed like Wardsboro, even in the summer, it's a very small percentage of their bill for electric is covered by the Newbrook array.
Mhm.
It was only like $200 out of a $500 bill.
It's based on the percentage that they bought into, and I would have to get those. I don't have those off the top of my head, but.
Is there any other schools that don't have enough percentage that would be interested in taking Wardsboro's percentage?
Possibly, I'm not sure that we can move it around. It's a whole different solar company, solar agreement than what you have in Dover. So, but it's, and I think I sent you that letter from Rick Hagee as far as West Rivers, same issue, right? That we weren't able to use all the credits in one spot. So, but it's something to keep working on, I think, and looking at.
Okay, because I was just thinking that, in Dover, we may transfer somewhere else so that we don't lose it. But
Right.
I'd love to transfer it to Wardsboro because that helps us in Wardsboro more than. So let's schedule a time and maybe we can get Chad back in that meeting too. I think he left us.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm not sure they're two entirely different agreements, so not sure how that would work, but it's worth asking.
Okay, so you and I will talk about that with Chad at some point in the future, but I want to try to get that settled so that we don't make sure we don't lose credits next year.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody, I'm going to let Lori leave unless somebody has anything for her.
I got to go hop on West River.
Don't hop off, just get on their meeting.
All
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So the other thing too, I'm sure Bill's trying to bounce around between a couple meetings. I don't see anything else. We had a superintendent's report, but we sent out his cabinet report. Does anybody have any questions of Bill? Go ahead, Mark.
Let me just turn to the page.
Are you referring to the cabinet report?
Yes.
Okay, if you can just tell us what page.
Yeah, it's on, I believe it's page 2 under safe, healthy schools. Under Director of Curriculum, at the end, it references Panorama representatives. Maybe I should, but I don't know what Panorama is. I was hoping to find out.
Is a software program that has been used in Wyndham Southeast for the past 4 years. And we're treating that as a pilot for being able to collect social, emotional, and academic learning data. Seem to have worked quite well for them. And so we are going to be piloting using that collection tool so that our administrators will be able to make some informed decisions as they get into their continuous improvement plans and work with their staff.
Thank you, Bill.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. I think also expected at the other meeting. And since Bill is here, hey, boss, should I stay here or go to West River and get this on the video?
I wasn't expecting you to leave this meeting. I was expecting
Excellent.
you to stay
Okay.
here.
I'll hang in there.
Hey, Bill, one last quick thing. The Jedi statement that we're going to discuss at Wyndham Central next meeting, are you in support of that, or do you have any concerns with that, or are you okay with that? And then that way we'll talk about it, but if there's any issues or any thoughts you had or changes you'd like to see made?
No, I mean, I don't have any issues. I just want to make sure that the board takes the time to really think through this and make sure that they're each comfortable with it. So when it's talked about at the WCSU level, that everybody is transparent and open to what the statement says. So I don't want anyone to be surprised. I don't want anyone to feel like it wasn't discussed. I want it to be unbelievably transparent and thoughtful. So that's my only caution, just making sure that we take the time and really be thinking through this, because we want to be authentic.
Okay, so if everybody's okay, do we need anything else out of our superintendent, or can we let him jump to the next meeting? I see nobody waving their hand. So Bill, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, so getting back on track, members of the public, is there any public that'd like to speak? What's that? Okay, don't see anything. Members of the staff, I don't know. Do I have any staff here? Okay, no, I'm getting head shaking, no's. Old business, Mark, waiting study, please, sir.
So I've lost track of time. I can't remember whether, I can't remember whether we met since the governor signed Act 127, I believe, is the act number. So he did sign it. He included a letter along with his signature, raising some concerns. Some of those concerns he would like addressed during the next legislative session. They include cost containment, essentially saying that we spend too much, although Act 127 was not about spending, it was about distribution of the funds. The letter is linked in Bill's cabinet report. If you haven't read it, I strongly urge you to read it so that you are up on what he is requesting. It opens the door from the from the executive branch for the legislature to reopen the discussion on weights and funding. And we already know that the legislature, at least some, are interested in looking at returning to the foundation system, which sets a base amount of funding for every student in Vermont, which is, at least in the form it was used in the 90s, is what was found to be unconstitutional in the Brigham versus State Vermont Supreme Court decision. So all this is to say that the coalition is going to stay active. We're going to stay on top of what's going on in the legislature. I'm currently working with our lobbyists to try to come up with some sort of contract that will be financially reasonable for us, but have her eyes and ears under the Golden Dome, as well as her contact with numerous legislators, and she was the reason that we were able to achieve as much as we were able to achieve. Her contacts and the amount of time and energy that she put in. So yeah, I think that's where we are. Oh, and I should say the new weights don't go into effect until FY25. So it's not going to be for 2 more academic years until the new weights are in place. We are waiting for the Joint Fiscal Office to do a simulation, so we will know, at least based on FY23 numbers, where all districts will stand or would stand, but that has not been done yet. So the numbers that we are operating under are still FY20, and they're not even accurate FY20 numbers to begin with. So we don't really know exactly how it's going to affect us or other districts in RSU or in Southern Vermont, but we're pretty confident that that it's our belief that Dover's probably going to see a very slight quote unquote tax increase, and Wardsboro would see a slightly larger tax decrease, which would translate into River Valley's being able to spend more money at the same tax rate that we are at now.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you for all your hard work. I know that was a lot of time and effort that you put in. And Laura, thanks to her too. She spent years fighting this, and Vicky.
And yourself.
Yeah, not as much. But anyways, all those, are there any questions, Mark? We're not going to hear the end of it, and it's something that we're going to really have to keep paying attention to, guys and girls, because it's it seems like they're always trying to rob from the rich to pay the poor, and without really accounting for what's poor and what's rich. So if there's no comments, no questions, I'm going to move on to hiring update. I had Mark and Kate down, but I'm going to let Mark and Kate, if it's okay with you guys, can we get Matt and Tammy to kind of let us know what's going on in the hiring? And I'd just like to thank Mark and Kate, because I know they did a bunch of interviews virtually. So Mark, Tammy or Matt, who wants to go?
Tammy, you want to go first?
Maybe.
You want me to do the joint positions as well, Matt, or?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so first off, I'll just get the easy ones done first, I guess. So the Spanish position, it's still posted. There have been 0 applicants. The music position, the general music position, has been offered to a candidate. We're just waiting to finalize the contract on that one. The interview team has interviewed 5 candidates for the counselor positions, and Matt and I are in the process of checking references in preparation to make some offers there. Instrumental music, I believe we're in the process of reviewing applications. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. What else do we have? The 1st and 2nd grade teacher position here at Wardsboro, I would like to bring forward an applicant. I'm waiting to hear back about possible dates, but it's looking like possibly this Thursday at 3:30 if people could convene. So I'm wondering if that time would work for both Kate and Mark. The candidate could meet in person.
I'm good.
You're clear?
Yep.
But that you'll still have a I mean, it'll still be a hybrid meeting, so they don't have to come and meet in person if they don't want to.
Correct.
For the members on the board.
For the team, yep.
Okay.
And then Matt, do you want to just give an update on the kindergarten position?
Sure, yes, the kindergarten candidate that we offered the position to accepted. So there will be a shared position in kindergarten next year, 0.6 and 0.4. So we're enthusiastic about that.
Mark and Kate, any comments on the candidates or the decisions, or?
I'll just say that I think, and I wasn't at the meeting where you guys talked about it, but I think the candidate for the shared kindergarten position was great. A local member of the community. So very happy that she accepted. And I think that there are at least 2, one in particular, really strong candidates for the counseling position. I think those are the 2 jobs that Kate and I have participated in interviews for.
Kate?
It's been really good to be part of the process, and I've really learned a lot. And, I'm really proud of what the 2 schools have to offer and what they have to offer the candidates and things. And it's just really, it's great to be part of that process to see the continuation of staff and how they join our teams.
Hey, is there any questions, comments from the board or from the public? Board first. Dwight, you good, sir? Chad, you all set? Anybody from the public? Okay, thank you. And Matt and Tammy, I know it's been a real tough year, and Mark and Kate, thank you for being able to do the interviews. And Mark, even though you couldn't make the other meeting, I did express your thoughts that you shared with me to the rest of the board. So I appreciate that we were at least able to talk ahead of time on that.
Rich, I just want to say that I feel like we're really lucky in the position that we're in. There are so many positions out there, and I think we're in really good shape at this point.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
I with Bill's not here, but I don't know if Tammy and Matt, maybe you can answer my question. I'm curious how staffing up of Wyndham Central is compared to River Valley's.
I'm sorry, I don't know about the staffing up there, Mark. I'm sorry, we are up to our eyeballs just trying to our needs here at the moment. So I'm not aware of staffing situation there. Tammy, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't, but I know that WSESU, the Brattleboro district, is looking for like 178 open positions.
Yeah, last I heard, there are 1,800 open positions in the state.
Okay, Matt, since you're here, I'm going to pick on you. Can you just ask Bill to just let us, if he could respond? We also next week, no, the week after, the 15th of June, I believe we have a WCSU meeting, Mark. So I'm sure we'll get an update there also.
Great, thank you. I didn't necessarily think that Tammy and Matt would know an answer, but they're more likely to know it than other people. So thank you.
Okay, so the next thing, board chair to sign contracts. So we have a bunch of contracts here. I'm going to go through the professional contracts, the certified contracts first. And you guys do it to me all the time. So we have Nancy Baker as a 0.4 plus 6.5 additional days. What's that?
So she'll be working 6 days in addition to her regular 0.4 schedule, and she'll be assisting with onboarding and doing some testing this year.
Okay. And then we have Anne Marie
Ixnoris.
Thank you. And then we have Tammy Bates. Is that somebody we know? And we have Valerie Bills. And we have Samantha Bovat. And these are all for classroom positions. Lindsay Brown Russo. Fiona Chevalier, who's a library media, I think in both buildings, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have Trisha Clark, classroom teacher. Bridget Cole, Tracy Gamache,
Yeah.
Jessica Gibb Bursma.
Okay, you got it.
Crystal Griswold, Ashley Hescock, Katie Hughes, which is the art and STEAM teacher in both buildings,
Yeah.
and Wendy Johnson, who's classroom teacher, Harry Reisig is a teacher, and Elise Vinton for school nurse. So we have those that I need a motion for the chair to sign. And I also have, let's do the contracts first, and we'll do the letters of employment.
So moved.
Thank you, Mark. And Peter, we'll get them in a list to you, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Kate, are you gonna second that?
I would love to second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, go ahead, Mark, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious. Never mind. I answered my own question.
Cool. Anybody else before we vote? If not, all those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
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 Did we lose Chad again?
No, he voted in the affirmative.
There he is. I'm sorry, Chad. Thank you.
Aye.
It appears to be all a unanimous decision. It is a unanimous decision. So the contracts are done. Now we have letters of employment. This is usually the non-certified staff. So we have Katrina Aldrich for a pre-K paraeducator, Patsy Bemis for paraeducator, Alicia Dwyer for a kitchen position, Jennifer Finaldi for a administrative assistant position, Jennifer Hetrick for a paraeducator position, Robert Hickey for food service cook, Lori O'Hearn for an office manager position, Nanette Royna, for a lunch assistant, David Sheldon for custodian transportation, and Helen Stive for custodian transportation. And again, Peter, we'll send these to you. Do I have a motion to sign the contracts? Move the chair, sign them.
I'll make a
So
motion
moved.
to.
Okay, Kate, I give you the motion, and Chad, will you do the second, sir?
Gladly. So seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready to vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
It appears to be a unanimous decision. It is. Moving on, we covered method of expenditures. I think we're all set there. Mark, I think you and Chad are doing the website stuff, but I just had you down because you said you had an update, and we're gonna try to keep an update on the website because we must be getting close to that, getting ready to go live. So Mark, you also said you may have some questions of the board.
Yeah, I'm
Or
just
not yet.
pulling up the document. No, I had the document up and I think I closed it by accident. Can you come back to me in a minute?
Yeah, I can do that very easily. Let's move forward to, is there any other old business from anybody? Go ahead, Kate.
Did we do the consent agenda for the minutes?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We didn't do correspondence because we were trying to get some people out of here. So the May 16th and May 31st minutes. So the board got the May 31st minutes, but Peter didn't. Did everybody get to review the May 31st? And that was a brief executive session and then just a motion to allow Matt and Tammy to offer a contract to the shared person at the kindergarten, and also to approve the offering of a contract to the music teacher. And we're going to have an executive session. We're going to discuss salaries for the music teacher. So would somebody like to make a motion? No, we're doing it under consent. Go ahead, Mark.
I have got a couple of changes for the May 16th minutes.
Shoot.
On page 1, second to last paragraph, second sentence, it says, Mr. Warner explained that the VSBA represents Windham County. I think that should be my name instead of VSBA.
Yeah, because the next part of it is the other representative is.
Yep.
Just 1 second. Okay,
Page 2, under the Greg Frost to discuss PCB section, the second paragraph, towards the, I don't know which sentence it is.
I got a word search that's really good. What is it? PCB testing?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's the middle of page 2. The second paragraph right underneath Greg Frost's name.
Yep. Funds for PCB testing in schools that were significant errors.
What was that?
Mr. Werner explained legislative action on funds for PCB testing.
The paragraph after that.
Ah, okay.
The third to last physical line, in the middle, it says had emailed about the errors.
Got it.
In the state document, and that should be had not got a response.
And had not got a response, was continuing to follow up to make sure of the needed changes.
Yep.
Got it.
I think that was it.
Thank you. So voted B.
So is there any other corrections or anything that anybody else noticed in either of those minutes? So with the corrections, everybody's all set? Okay, so by unanimous consent, we will say that they were adopted. And then correspondence, I don't have anything. Do you? Tammy? Okay. Mark, are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
Okay, so let's finish up on the website and then we'll move on to new business.
So general update is we're still working. The Edgeworks has provided us with a number of proofs. We've had some changes that we've requested both in the iconology and navigation that they're working on. We and they have a number of questions that we would like the board to opine on and hopefully answer. So if that's okay with you, I will start posing those questions.
Okay, so just can you can we do the update first? I mean, so what are they on schedule? Is everything looking right? Are we holding things up? You know, can you just, how are we financially with that? Just a quick 2-second.
Sure. No change financially. We're still at the 18,900. Don't quote me on that, but I think that was the number. We are discussing the possibility of some sort of document management system that may require some additional expenses, but we have no details of that at this point. So if we go down that road, we will bring it to you all to make that decision. Time-wise, it's really hard to say. I know that they are working hard to stay on schedule. I think if anything, at this point, we may be holding them up by a couple of weeks, just with change of meetings and general schedule of being able to actually get everybody together. But at this point, I think we're talking a couple of weeks, not much longer than that. Obviously, that could change, but at this point, I think we're pretty close on schedule.
That's great. Sure.
As far as other updates, I don't. As soon as we have a more finalized version of the layout and stuff, and actually we may have some proofs now, I can send them out to everybody to take a look at. The iconology they're still working on. Chad, Matt, Tammy, am I missing anything?
No, Mark, I concur with everything.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
What about
Just keeping your guys back, your guys' mind is that, you know, we have.
Chad, can you just mute? Thank you.
So we meet in 2 weeks, and then we usually don't meet in July. So if you have anything, like if you're thinking that we may need to, let's make sure you let me know ahead of time, Mark, so we can get it on the agenda. If you think that there's some more, another program or something you mentioned that you thought you may want to try to work into that. And if you can get a budget number, even if it's not exact, but a number to budget, because there was extra, we did vote more at the meeting. We didn't use it all. So there is some there that we can, use for that, as long as it's for the website stuff. I think let us know. If not, it wouldn't be till August unless we had to do something special. We'd have to call a special meeting just for that. So
We may have to call a special meeting. We're not going to be meeting again with them until after our next meeting, because of just conflicts of schedule. So.
Okay, good. So yeah, just keep us informed. Send Katie or I an email if you need another meeting or something then, okay? You and Chad.
Of course.
Okay, so go ahead, Mark. You have some questions or opinions that you want from the board?
Yeah, so one question is, each of our schools has a school club of one sort or another. Not 100% clear on the relationships, but do we want to provide a page on our website for the school clubs? Or do we want to link to their pages? And along those same lines, might we want to link to their social media? I'm going to throw my opinion right out there. No, school clubs are not affiliated. This is a district paid service, and I think that we'd be opening ourselves up to problems if we provide a outside organization access to publish whatever they want. And my opinion about linking to social media is period, no matter what.
Mark, was that something that you guys discussed as a group when you were there? You and Chad have a discussion, or is that?
We discussed, I can't remember if we voiced our opinions or not. I probably did, knowing me, but I can't remember. But it's a topic that we've talked about. It was a question that the developers had, because they had put in a link for a page for the school club, and that's why the discussion came up.
Okay, so there was no consensus from the subcommittee, though?
I don't believe so. Other people can speak up, but I don't believe so.
No, but I think let's just do them one at a time, and then let's let Chad speak to it as your other committee member, and then, we'll, Matt, Tammy, if you have, we'll open it up to everybody. Is that okay?
Yeah, to me, that's kind of one question, not multiple. And I apologize for throwing my opinion in. It was on my mind and I just wanted to get it out there.
No, that's fine. I think that's what we'll do, Mark. We'll deal with this one, then the next one, then you give your opinion, Chad and Tammy and Matt, and then we'll go to questions from the board, okay?
Absolutely, works perfect.
Go ahead, Chad.
Thank you, guys. And I concur with everything that Mark had said. In the subcommittee, we did not, speak directly. We said we wanted to confer with the board altogether, particularly, as Mark suggested, that the school clubs are not, directly under the control of the school. Again, given Mark's background in the tech sector, I really value his opinion with the linking of social media. We certainly know that the school clubs have relied on Facebook to get their messages out to the community. It seems to be, one of the most convenient solutions that they have had, and cost effective as they're really trying to utilize any amount of raised funds for the programs that they're looking to support on campus for our students. So I'm torn. I think it would be wonderful because to be able to have linkage to a page for them, because it allows us to continue to drive traffic back to the
the website. Again, we're looking to bring traffic. I mean, we're spending a lot of time and a good investment in doing so. And I think there is a possibility to create some guidelines to really increase the connectivity between the schools, this website resource, and the school clubs, to make sure that there are good guidelines and rules, and absolute transparency and clarity. That would be my opinion there.
Can I ask Chad a question?
Well, before you go there, I just one quick clarifying question. So you're saying that there wouldn't even be a link, like you could say, there is a school club in Dover, Mooresboro, here's the link to go to. You don't want it, or are you talking about giving them space on the website, Mark? I guess that's more of a to you.
That actually was going to be my question to Chad, because I was unclear which he was going for.
Well, again, I think, and I appreciate the question. The link, if anything, would be to a social media account, because that's what they're using currently. And so I didn't know, again, sort of a question back to you, Mark, again, with your experience, is it, the link to social media that concerns you? But I do believe that if we're able to have a school club page, that would be what would drive traffic. It wouldn't drive traffic to create a link, to their social media. But if we were able to create rules and guidelines for the school club with regard to their technology usage on the page, I think it would ultimately be beneficial. But again, we've got a great group to have that discussion with.
Okay. Mark, are you all set?
Yeah, if I could just say, I may have left one small piece out when I was talking about the options. An option is to link, to have a link in one of the menus to the school club's own website, separate from social media. So if they have a website that they maintain, we could have a link that says, school club, and it would go just to their website. The issue that with social media is that and I'm forgetting the word, but the levels of responsibility could lead right back to us, and having no way to control what they're putting out on their social media, much less what other people are posting on their social media or tagging, however that stuff works. That's where my concern is, as a general rule on social media.
Okay, thank you. Kate or Dwight, do you have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, thanks for the discussion. Obviously the school clubs are really an integral part of the community, and the things that they do are pretty much ingrained with the school and with the events that they run and everything else. So I think it's important to have some kind of informational page or some kind of information on what they do, and also the events that they're holding. The events probably could either be on our calendar or a separate, maybe they can submit events that could be on our calendar, have an approved page, an informational page, and then just link to either their site or their Facebook. I don't have a real problem linking to them. I would be surprised if any of those clubs have their own web page. Maybe they do. But if they're using a Facebook page just to link in one direction, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I think it's definitely important to recognize the work that they're doing in some fashion, have their events on our calendar, and also link to their information.
Thank you, Dwight. Mark, let me see if Kate has anything, and then we do have somebody from the public.
I think I totally see what you're saying about linking to social. If it is possible to do a one-way link, and I'm guessing Mark's going to speak to that, that would be cool. Like just to let people know that it's there, and do something so that we share that we have these great organizations at each of the schools that help to bring programming in and do things for the students. I think it's important, if we possibly can, do it in a safe manner.
Thank you, Kate. The other thing, Matt, do you remember, Tammy, isn't there a policy on what the school clubs can and can't do in the name of the schools? Or was that just a Dover policy? Or Mark, do you remember, you know, policies too?
River Valleys doesn't have a policy in that regard. We could look into it, but we don't have one.
Oh, that's what I was gonna suggest. Maybe you cover all that with a policy so that if they put something on the page or, you know, here's the policy. So Mark, if you wanna respond to the concerns that have been brought up, and then we'll go to the public.
I will respond to what Kate said in a minute. I was actually going to say that one of the things that Chad said was, you know, come up with some sort of process. We could just have a page. We'd have to double check with Edgeworks that this is possible. We could have a page that the school club would put into draft mode, and then Tammy or Matt would have to go in and say, yes, it's okay, publish it, or no, it's not okay, and let them know. So that is definitely a possibility. Depending on how many changes they make, it could end up being a number of communication, and I'd hate to put more work onto Tammy and Matt's back, but somebody official would have to approve it, in my opinion. As far as social media goes, what I'd say, Kate, is and Dwight, we can put down on the page the @ or the username for Facebook, whatever, so that people can look them up or go to it themselves. I'd have an issue with an actual link, though. I just don't think that I've got to think about that. We definitely can put down, though, you know, contact Dover School on their Facebook page. Their username is Dover School Club or whatever. That we could definitely do. I'd want to think about the link, though.
Okay, Meredith, can you just, should have asked you this earlier, but can you just give your last name so the minute taker Peter knows who you are?
My last name is Block.
Thank you.
BLOCK.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I've been involved with the Dover School Club for the year. And I'm not sure what you guys know about what goes on with it, but I think it'd be a huge missed opportunity to not in some way link it to the site, because I feel like there's the opportunity to get more people involved in it. And the only things that are going on are things that help the students. I don't know. There's no like nefarious activities going on. There's all the comments on the Facebook page are super positive. And it just seems like it's there to support the school. So it seems like a great thing to be able to link it to the website, because otherwise, and just putting up like where you can find them misses a lot of people, because people won't take the time to type it in and do all that stuff. If there's a link on the site, and if you put something on the website, you know, some kind of disclaimer if you needed to. I don't know legally what you need to do, but that seems like it could maybe take care of the problem that you are seeing as a possibility of something that would hurt the school, you know, that would look bad on the school or something. I just don't see it happening. It seems like everything we're doing is cleared by the school, and we're in constant communication with them. So that's all I wanted to say.
Meredith, which school? I'm sorry.
Oh, the Dover School.
Okay. And do you folks, I've been involved with it when my children were here. So there were several different versions of it. And there have been issues in the past where money's been raised for not the proper reasons and some other issues. Do you folks have your own website now?
No, they use Facebook. And I believe that, Kara's super careful. The woman that's, you know, kind of heading it up is super careful about everything, I think. And kind of, writes everything up before we do anything, checks with everyone again. She's overly careful.
Okay. Mark is going to respond. And Mark and Chad, do you have any questions? You do have somebody from the school club right there, so that may be a good opportunity for you.
So I just want to say, Meredith, I'm not concerned with what you guys would be necessarily posting. I'm concerned with the public being able to post on the social media associated with and anything associated with the school, whether it was the school's social media or the school club's social media, and you can't control what the public posts.
Is the school social media not linked to the website?
It is not.
It's not.
Nope.
Oh,
No, the school is actually, when we're even doing the study committee, usually the schools don't get involved with social media because there's a lot of issues that have happened in the past. So we had a place where people could go to put questions, but we didn't answer them on social media.
now that I think about it, I believe you have to be approved to be commenting on the Dover site, on the Dover School Club Facebook page. So it's only people that are approved that are part of the group.
Okay.
So it makes it, it's a private group. It's not just anyone from the public that can comment on anything. It's only parents.
Okay. Meredith, I've got some other people with their hands up, so let me bounce over and give them a chance. Peter, do you have are you want to make a comment, or you need something from us?
No, I'm a private citizen hat.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Stephanie next. You've had your hand up for a while, Stephanie. I think it's Stephanie, right?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Rich. It seems to me that a simple legal disclaimer should be able to absolve any liability to the school. I also feel like we're constantly going down this where we're looking for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. So I'm a little bit concerned about the direction that a lot of these measures are headed.
Stephanie, a lot of these what are headed?
Some of these measures and concerns, just the direction that they're headed, it feels concerning to me as a parent that there just seems to be one thing after another and they're all coming from the same direction. And I'm a little bit concerned as a parent, but I just feel like with this, it is something that is a way to promote our school. And as I recall, whenever we voted to supply the board with the money for the website, one of the selling points was that this was going to be used as a way to attract people to come and live in our district and move to this area. And we have seen that happen. We have seen lots of new families moving to our school district. And I feel like if you're trying to attract savvy young families to come to our district, they are used to having those things at the touch of their fingers. They don't want to have to go to the website, find the website, then have to go and copy and paste a link into their social media account. This is who we want to attract into our district. The website needs to reflect that as well.
Okay, thank you for your thoughts. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, this arouses my former software professional persona here. I concur with Mark that it is an extremely dicey situation to get any kind of connection between the school system and a private company called Facebook. There's no voting on what they do. And there's really no control of what the club may do in the future if other people get into positions of authority with the club. So it's no reflection on the integrity of the club or the thing is that Facebook runs on the temptation of publicity and attention. And it doesn't work the way most people think it does. I'll just stop there, but I just caution you that it is a minefield, and I would stay far away from it.
Okay, thank you. Mark and Chad, does that give you enough?
I think we need a vote. I'd love, well, first of all, I'd love to hear Matt and Tammy's opinions as members of the website committee and our principals.
Okay, and then I have somebody from the public. Matt, Tammy, you want to weigh in?
Sure. So we haven't talked about this as the committee at all, but obviously we all have thoughts about it. This is a tough subject, guys, and we have different generations of people here who are approaching the problem in different ways, and it's not a simple problem. I do think that there is some cause for concern and worry about what happens on Facebook. I am not concerned about whether the school club is going to somehow put our school or our kids or our programs at risk in any way. I do share Peter's information about the intent of Facebook. If you understand the algorithms of social media, you understand how it works, but a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't understand that. I don't think that's an issue here. This is a real simple and convenient way for parents to communicate, get information out to other parents on their own. They can be independent. There's no way a website or a web page is going to be efficient for today's parents to update information and get information out to each other. And so I think we have to find some way to coexist peacefully with social media in a way that's safe for our kids, our programs, and our families, but yet retains the convenience and the speed of social media. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword, but I would go on record to say that although I am somewhat concerned, I am not overly concerned, and I would put a link to a social media page, but I would also use Stephanie's suggestion of adding a disclaimer that states that the school does not maintain the page and is not entirely responsible, but also say, if you find something offensive, give us a call and we'll figure out what's going on and see if it's something that, you know, is inappropriate for a school page, and we'll deal with it. But I agree that we can tiptoe around forever on this, and we can hire attorneys, no offense, Alan, till the cows come home, and case law is still going to change and liabilities are still going to change. So I think we have to make a good faith effort to get information out, to, like Stephanie said, honor the community's desire to have this promote our schools and our wonderful programs. And if something happens, if somebody, you know, listen, people still rob banks electronically because they can, and we react to that. So if somebody does something improper or illegal, we will still have the ability to react and pull a link off the website, or you know, clean up a mess if we have to. But that risk does not worry me as much as the risk of alienating parents or in some way hindering their ability to be as highly impactful and efficient as they have been using social media, which we know can be a challenge. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Matt. Tammy? Are you
Yeah,
good?
I mean, I completely agree with what Matt had said. The Wardsboro School Club also does not have their own website. So its main form of communication is through their Facebook page. Sounds like it's run very much like the Dover School Club, in that it is only open to people that are part of the group that have to be approved by that group. It's only a main form of communication, and in my experiences, it's been nothing but positive. So I would support a link to Facebook from the website.
Thank you, Tammy. I have 2 Allens. Alan Block.
Only one of them.
Well, what's the other Alan that's trying to connect?
It's not me. It could have been me when the meeting started on a different computer. I don't know. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but just to echo what Matt and Stephanie and my wife and several others said, and it's a common sense solution, but I know you guys tend to use lawyers a little bit as a bad word sometimes. I understand it, and I have no problem with it. I agree with it half the time, but you know, this kind of thing is not something novel. This is something that companies and municipalities and school boards have been struggling with and fighting about for 15 odd years. There's a well-trodden path on how to do it. You can go to any large school, or you can go to the government to see how they put up links without endorsing them or associating themselves with them or shouldering any liability. The reason I talk about lawyers is just because this is one of those easy things to discuss with the board's lawyer. How do we make sure we don't have liability for this? Can you give us a disclaimer? Can you help us maybe or review this policy? We did a one-page policy on what these clubs can and can't do in order to be on the site. It's not rocket science. And I just want you not to be intimidated by it. The school board hasn't had to deal with it before, but it's a normal part of life for a long time. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mark and thank you, Mark and Chad, wherever you guys keep moving on me.
Two things. One, if these are closed communities, then having links on them isn't gonna help us promote our schools to the public. And two, I guess I'll just make I don't know, do we need a motion? Yeah, I guess I'll make a motion that we link with proper disclaimers, vetted by a lawyer, and that any future policy that is developed or is followed, that we link to social media pages for the school clubs on our website.
Mark, before there's a second, real quick, are there a bunch more of these that we need to make decisions on? Do you want to vote on each one separately, or do you want to put them all together? I'm not sure what else you have.
The others are separate.
Okay, so we have a motion to allow a link to, Mark, repeat your motion, make sure Peter has it, then we'll get a second.
That we link to the school club's social media pages with proper disclaimers vetted by a lawyer, and any future I forgot the word I used, but that any future policy that the board adopts in regards to such a situation must be followed.
Peter, do you have that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Chad seconds it. Okay, before we have discussion, Peter, just read back the motion, make sure we're all on the same page.
That a link be provided to the school clubs' social media pages with proper disclaimers, and future policy adopted must be followed.
If a policy, and I think he also said vetted by an attorney. Correct, Mark?
Yeah, the disclaimer should be vetted by an attorney, which is standard practice anyway.
Yes.
And that it's a link from our website.
The school website.
The district's, yeah, well, it's going to be a district website with
Okay.
two schools, so.
Link to the club's social media pages from the district website with proper disclaimers vetted by an attorney, and that future policies adopted must be followed.
Okay, and we have a second by Dwight. So is there discussion from the board?
By Chad, I think.
Go ahead, Chad.
No, I think he seconded it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chad seconded it. Yes, you're right, Mark. Okay,
So-
is there any discussion, Mark?
Yeah, I just want to say, I hope that this is a good compromise that everyone is happy with, or at least can be happy with.
Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. I just wanted to it's not part of the motion, but we talked about having the page with the link on it. I had mentioned having some information on there, and Mark had suggested giving the group the opportunity to make changes to that. That's not part of the motion, but maybe it needs, I'm not sure if it needs to be, but I wouldn't be in favor of allowing the groups to have full control over the page. I think that's something that we should just have either a static page linking to them, or, they can submit changes as need be, but that might be a different motion.
Yeah, I don't think we can allow anybody to just go in and adjust the page. I mean, that has to come from.
Right.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't see your hand.
I just want to say, Dwight, because there's going to be a disclaimer, there will be a page that for each school, excuse me, each school club will have its own page with contact information, et cetera, on it and a link. And I think it's not part of the motion, but I think we can give our administrators, permission to put on to those pages what they believe is appropriate.
Yeah, the administrators wouldn't be the school clubs themselves.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. Perfect.
Okay. Kate, you all set? Chad, and Mark and Chad, I guess you both, since you made the motion seconding, you both supported as the committee members.
Yeah, I support the motion, and I just add, a piece is what Dwight's saying, and kind of thinking about, particularly at a high school level, when there is a club that is not necessarily sanctioned, let's just say that it was the fencing club, not a VPA sport, but something that the school found to be beneficial for their students, they might assign a faculty representative to work with that club to make sure there is some adherence. We don't have that currently. But as Dwight said, and just considering things for the future, I think the motion that is in line right now sets this up very well. And there's room to grow as we experience and evolve with the technology that's available for our students, their families, and potential families.
Thank you, Chad. Are you all ready to vote? Is there any other comments?
I just want to say, Chad, I hope you'll be involved when the policy committee starts developing this policy.
I will gladly be at your side.
Excellent.
Okay, so if there's no other discussion, you're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion that Peter copied from Mark, that seemed to work well, please signify so by saying aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous decision. It is a unanimous decision. So Mark, you have more on technology. And I'm sorry, not technology, on the web site.
Two more decision points for the board. The first one is, do we want a tagline? And if so, what? The iconology that Edgeworks created included a tagline for the district. I don't honestly remember what it was. I think it had something to do with rivers and flowing and knowledge. I don't remember. But the question is, do we want a tagline? Does the district want a tagline? And if so, I'd want to open it up to discussion for what people would like to see as our tagline. Now, tagline, for those who don't know, is essentially the words that go right underneath the title. So be RVUSD, and then the tagline would be something about the district. Short, just a handful of words. It's an advertising mechanism, essentially.
Yeah, and Mark, just to clarify, the mock-up tagline that I put together, which was just for statement purpose, was nurturing the flow of knowledge.
I had a couple of the words right. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it.
So can I make a suggestion on this? Because I appreciate you, Mark, telling me what the tagline was, because I was about ready to ask you that, and Matt's laughing at me in case you can't see him. But on that one, can you guys send that out and send it to both Tammy and Matt, and send it to all the board members, and let's get some input on that. I think, sometimes I know in the past when we've talked about stuff, we want to use our, the charge and our, I forget.
Mission and things like that.
Yeah. So I think maybe let's send that out, because that's something you can adjust, and can we vote on that at the next meeting, Mark? And Chad, Chad, I'm sorry, you got your hand up, you moved.
Yeah, so the question at hand is, first of all, whether or not we want one. Not whether or not nurturing the flow of knowledge is what we want, but we wanted to ask the board if it's something you want us as the website committee to explore and come up with some options and then come back for a board vote.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's why I'm glad that you clarified that. So,
What Chad said.
yeah, does anybody not think, I mean, we should have a tagline? I mean, it seems to make sense. Is there anybody that does not want to see one? I think you guys are good. Get us a tagline. Let's have a way, but I'd also like to see input because I think that may be a good way to get it out there that we're doing this to, before the end of the school year with the students, staff and administration, and even maybe the clubs. Get some input and then we can maybe at the next, you guys think you could have some stuff for us at the next meeting?
We can send an email out, but if we don't meet again, it's going to be hard for us to, put some stuff together. I would love to hear, I'd love to just get raw input from anybody. Not my suggestion, what I'd say is we will let Edgeworks know that we're going to have a tagline, and that way the space is reserved. That doesn't have to be decided on this week, this month even. That can be added in later. We need the space for it. And that's the important thing that we needed from tonight.
Okay, does anybody disagree with the tagline? No. Oh, go ahead, Dwight.
I'm indifferent. But just a quick question. Edgeworks does a lot of work with other websites for elementary schools in Vermont, I believe. Do you know if what percentage, or do all of them have taglines, or is it a common thing, or do they recommend it?
I can only think of a couple of schools that they've done the websites for in Vermont, and I have no idea whether they have taglines. I know they're developing a new website for Brattleboro, and I'm sure they'll have a tagline. But I'm with you, Dwight. I'm kind of indifferent, but I think it's something we can explore and let people, their creative juices flow in and come up with something.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Chad.
Dwight, to your question, I think, school-wise, what I'm starting to recall just from experience, a lot of the time it's, home of the fighting black dogs or things of that nature that tend to go along with the schools. But, again, if we have some time, as Mark said, this being a placeholder, I think there's an opportunity, and Matt and Tammy would love your input here. If we can include the question on weekly newsletter that goes out on Fridays, and possibly even, involve our student body to come up with something whimsical and fun that, and just make it a community event. And if there's something we like, great. And, again, if not, then, we roll without it. And as I said to Mark and committee, just because I came up with the nurturing flow of knowledge does not mean I'm beholden to it. It was just something fun to deliver, in a creative moment. So, really looking forward to the input of the community on this.
Let's do that. There's nobody that doesn't want it. There's nobody that's against it. So let's do that. And let's, at the next meeting, Peter, make sure that in the minutes it shows that we need to discuss taglines, and we'll keep that on for the next few meetings until we settle that. Does that work for you, Mark and Chad?
Yep.
Okay, good. Mark, you had one more, you said?
Just one more, yeah. So I mentioned a little bit about document management at the beginning. We're trying to develop both the kind of back end process for board documents, which essentially would be the process that Meg, at least for the time being, Meg would be going through to get our documents online, as well as how and in what fashion the public accesses those documents. So we wanted to ask the board whether you'd consider having the committee conduct a survey of users, so parents, public, the media, to inform our decision on the way documents are presented to the public. So we are presenting it in such a way that all the users that are going to be using it are going to find it useful.
Okay, I guess I'm missing that. So you're going to explain what it is. You'll have a little explanation and just ask people to come back to you on a survey.
Yeah, we'd have to come up with some questions, probably some directed questions on the survey to kind of inform the type of searches that someone may want to do, or the way that they'd want to see the documents divided. In other words, do they want to pull them up by date? So you go to a meeting date and all the documents come up, or do they want to just be able to pull up, all the minutes and that all comes up, or a combination thereof? Obviously, I'm not sure who's in the room. Is that Amelia? I can't see. So obviously, Amelia would be somebody that, we'd obviously want input from, because quite honestly, you're probably one of the primary people that's going to be using our public documents. So the idea is to get input so that it's not us making a decision on how to present it, as much as presenting it in a way that makes sense, and is technologically feasible as well.
Okay, so does Dwight or Kate, do you have any issue with the subcommittee? We've appointed Chad and Mark to be part of, to shepherd this website through. Do either one of you have a problem if they do a survey and put something out to that effect?
So Tammy and Matt are members of the committee as well.
Yeah, but I'm just asking if Kate and Dwight have any issue with it. Because you, as our representatives from the board, we've empowered you to represent the board in this. So you guys both good? Kate's good. Dwight, are you good? Okay, so yes, Mark, you can move that forward. I don't think that needs a vote, but that's part of your function as our, and then bring it back to the board.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. That takes care of the today's programming on websites.
And that'll be on the agenda for the next few weeks. Next few meetings until it's up and running. We had the superintendent's report and I've excused him and we had bounced over that. Principals updates. You want to go first?
Sure. Well, we have finished most of our spring assessments for the spring benchmark window. Data is being analyzed to try to see, the student performance on those assessments. We talked a little bit about a program called Bridges, you may recall, during the budgeting process. And so Dover School is hosting a Bridges training the couple of days after school gets out. And it's just open to WCSU, and we have almost 40 participants. So it's definitely an exciting and up and coming time. We're looking forward to hosting that. Otherwise, people are working really hard, getting ready for the end of the school year. We're looking forward to the end of the year celebrations, the moving on, and a couple other items we have on our list tonight to talk about retiring employees and so on and so forth. So
give us the dates.
Dates, what would you like?
In the school and moving on ceremony.
Sure. Last day of school, June 15th, Wednesday, half day, early release. It also is the community picnic in Dover. The community picnic in Wardsboro, I believe, is Monday the 13th. Is that right, Tammy?
We're holding a picnic for students and teachers. Not just
on Monday. The moving on ceremony for Dover is Monday the 13th, and graduation in Wardsboro is Tuesday the 14th. Is that right? And we're starting at 6 p.m. Is that true for Wardsboro, Tim?
Same.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Other dates that you'd like?
Nope.
That's it.
Tammy, your report, or you have anything to add? Matt?
I think Matt really covered most of it. The only thing I want to add is that Matt and I and Crystal have been working together to coordinate the summer school services for kids who qualify for the summer learning portion of the summer camp, and trying to figure out how to best provide targeted instruction to those students.
Okay, thank you, Matt and Tammy. Does anybody have any questions for Matt or Tammy? Go ahead, Mark.
Matt, what time did you say the community picnic was on the 15th?
11 a.m.
Thank you.
That was a good catch because he didn't. I guess he doesn't want to feed us, Mark.
Yeah, no comment.
Come one, come all.
Anybody else for the principals? If not, faculty recognition. So just a little background. In Dover, about 20 years ago, we started at the end of the year, we sponsored, the board sponsored a faculty luncheon where we met with all the board. We had a caterer come in and do some food, and some people would bring some desserts. And we would have lunch with all the staff members, anybody from WCSU that could come, and the administration, and we would kind of review the year and just talk about things that maybe the staff saw that they'd like to see different. It was a good time just to get together and have a relaxed conversation. We would also recognize milestones, people leaving, or, one time I tried to add up all the years, but I quickly ran out of fingers and toes that all the staff had been here. We were like 190 some odd years worth of experience in the building itself. So we do have a couple long-time employees leaving the Dover building this year, and we do have an employee leaving the Wardsboro building. So we were talking about some kind of recognition. So I didn't know if we could maybe, I believe the whole group is gonna, both all the Wardsboro and Dover staff will be here on Monday the 20th. So we had a question, was that?
No. Monday the 20th?
Yeah, I thought that's why we had breakfast question there.
This is the first time seeing the breakfast.
Monday, June 20th. You and I had that discussion in your office, I thought. Okay, well, I was wondering if we could do an end of year luncheon. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of other staff members, so it wouldn't work here. So I thought we talked about a breakfast, but I guess my notes are wrong. So I don't know what we want to do, if there's anything we can do this year then.
So I don't know if this helps, but it may be a little late for us as a board to do something, because we've already planned some staff recognition and a staff lunch for June 20th in the afternoon. So that's what we have
Maybe
rolling.
I wrote your notes wrong.
Yeah, it's okay. It's late. So those things, those planning for those events is already in play, but I would love to get us to nail down something for next year so that we don't get to June and then be trying to plan something, because it's just too late for us to try to be too reactionary. It's hard to get places, food lined up and all of that. So we had to move on that a little bit, and I apologize if that created some confusion.
Peter, can you just make sure there's a note in there, and we'll put it on future agenda items? So in the fall, we'll talk about something, we can make some plans and maybe do something with a luncheon with all the staff, and maybe do like we do with the annual meeting. We'll switch back and forth between buildings.
Yeah, we have to do something collaborative. But I don't know about Tammy, if you've already moved forward at all with planning, but we've moved a little bit with Dover already.
As far as a date for this school year, Matt?
Yeah.
I think we're planning on doing something that Wednesday, the last day of school.
That'll be the 15th.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So just that, I'm sorry about that, guys. That was my fault. I messed that up. Next thing I had was JED. So we'll have that discussion in the future. In your packet, there was a write-up on the JEDI team. And I think, everybody's been exposed to the JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusiveness. And it's a group that was discussed at the annual retreat for the WCSU back in the fall. And they asked for some board members to participate. So I've participated along with Jeremy Kirk from Marlboro. He's unfortunately had to miss a few meetings. So one of the things we had a discussion at the JEDI meeting, and what I've been asking for almost since December is, what can I do as a board member? I'm not in the school. I don't interact with the students. I don't interact a lot with the staff. I interact with Matt and Tammy and Bill, and that's what a board member's job is. So one of the things that I had asked of the group that's leading it is if they had a statement of support, because there was some comments made at one time. There was some discussion about the Jedi group, and some people noticed that the board didn't say we support their work. So at the Wyndham Central meeting on June 15th, we're gonna have this article, or a statement that we're gonna ask everybody to support and vote on. It is the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union is committed to initiating and supporting policies, practices, and curriculum that promotes social justice, diversity, and inclusion. In celebration of our collective rich diversity, we also seek to affirm and elevate historically marginalized identities and experiences. We are dedicated to our belief that biased actions and hateful speech have no place in our learning community. Our commitment to social justice and educational equity will be reflected in our daily operations, including recruitment, admissions, student and staff retention, responsibility for modeling and reinforcing upstander behavior, school and family support, hiring practice, curriculum, and respectful dialogue. So I have two things. One, and I don't want you all to do it tonight because I'd like you to read it and think about it, is I also made notes as can be used for individual districts. So we could do the River Valley is committed to initiating. But my first question is, does anybody have an issue if the three of our members or support this statement at the Wyndham Central meeting? That would be Mark, Dwight, myself. So I guess that would pretty much go to you, Kate, and Chad. And then the second thing is, do we want to do it for River Valleys also? And if you did, then I would rewrite it and submit it again at the next meeting. Yes, Kate.
I'm definitely in support of the three of you bringing this forward to the WCSU meeting. And I would be in support of us doing it at a River Valleys level too.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
I concur.
Mark or Dwight, are you okay with it, or do you have comments? Or go ahead, Mark, and then Dwight.
Yeah, I think the statement's good. If I remember correctly, I think to remember hearing you say that you got some either assistance or the statement was reviewed by the people that ran the Jedi. Okay, I wanted to know what their opinion was of it, but obviously if they partook in writing it, then they think it's good.
Yeah, they gave us a sample one, and it had a lot of words that you would never hear me use. And I said, this isn't me. So I rewrote it. And there's actually, there's one word in there that I was not really good with. But when I reviewed it with Wayne from Marlboro and Scotty from Newfane, they really want to keep it. So I spent some time and looked it up, and usages in the last sentence, reinforcing upstander behavior. I actually thought it was a typo, but it's a real word, and it's a person that's supportive, and I forget the whole definition, but it fit really well. I forget what word I had substituted. That was the only comment that they made, is that they really want to see that word back in there.
Okay. I'm in support of it, both as Kate said, both at the SU level and at the district level.
Dwight?
Yeah, I'm full support of both, and really impressed by the work that these guys are doing and the way they're going about it too. It's really in a methodical way to make sure it's it's out there to everybody. And thanks to you, Rich, for putting this together for us as well.
Thank you, Dwight. Okay, so I'll get something. Oh, go ahead, man.
Can I just echo? I'm so glad you said that, Dwight, because I was sitting here saying, man, I got to thank you, and I got to thank the WCSU board and this board. This work is so important for us as administrators and for our schools. To make this statement is so important, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. So really appreciate that work. Thank you, Dwight, for bringing it up.
And that's one of the big things, is the staff and the administrators really need to feel supported in this. And that's why I want to do this statement, to say, hey, we support the work you're doing, don't, keep up doing the good work. So, Board's connection to schools, and this, I'm just gonna do this really briefly. There was some discussion I was having with a member and thinking back on some issues that have happened in the past, a long time ago. You know, it's some people don't have a big connection to school. So, you know, right now, you know, Kate and Chad, you've got a real good connection. You actually have students in the school all the time. And I did at one time. And, you know, I won't tell you how old I am, but it's been a long time since I've had connections. And, you know, Mark and I don't have kids in the school, or Laura, and it makes it a little more difficult. And I think, Dwight, you don't have any more students left in the Wardsboro bill. Oh, you do, one, okay. And, oh, was that a 0?
Looked like a 0.
I have one still in school, but not in
Ward.
yeah.
So, and, you know, so if board members want to see what's going on in either building, it's perfectly fine. It's not something that you do unannounced. We did have a board member who one time thought that they should just walk into a classroom and make observations and then report it back at a board meeting, which is not the proper way to do things. And it's nobody on this board, this person is no longer alive. So, and not because of what they did, but just so you know. So if you do have interest in coming to school though, and see what's actually going on in the classrooms, like if I was actually really retired, I would be spending some time in Wardsboro because I want to see how that STEAM stuff works, especially when they start building bridges and stuff. So if somebody does have anything, you know, please ask them. The other thing is, I was going to ask Matt and Tammy if there's events that would be appropriate for, like, we haven't been invited to the IB, or I haven't remembered the IB ceremony that you do, or the end of the year culmination. So if the other thing is, if there is things that are appropriate for the board, can you two add that to your principal's report from now on? And I do appreciate, I know you guys send out the school newsletters, so that kind of gives us a little bit of a clue, but it is, you know, tough for the board to understand what's going on sometimes when they're not here. But we want to also stay in our lanes, because we all know when we get out of our lanes, accidents happen. So I just want to touch on that briefly. Go ahead, Chad. And then
I think you know your words are spot on. Again, being excuse me, a new board member was invited to the VSBA first year initiation, and that's really the picture that they painted, was as the board being that bridge between the school and the community. And so the more that we know in conjunction and coordination with the administration and the teachers, you know, the more we can share with the community, and vice versa, being in the community, so that you know, when we see folks like the Blocks and the Blasowskis, you know, they're comfortable sharing their thoughts and opinions to make sure they feel, you know, well heard and you know, represented, you know, as we are a conduit between both. So yeah, thank you for those comments, Rich.
Thank you, Chad. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm not sure exactly how to say this, so I'm gonna bumble through. I want the administrators to know how appreciative I am of all the information that you do and all the work that you do. It really, as somebody who doesn't have a child and doesn't obviously have a child in the school system, a number of months ago, maybe a year ago, I asked if you guys could, you know, provide some more information, and it has truly made me feel much more part of the community. And I just want you guys to know that it really helps seeing the newsletter and the emails that Matt sends out from both schools. It really does matter, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. And we got thumbs up from Matt and Tammy, so they appreciate it. Just, these are kind of FYIs. Board training with Pietro, July 14th, 5 to 7. Just those of you that don't know, Pietro is a Leland and Gray graduate. He was in school a year or two after me, a little bit before you.
Me, yeah.
And then I also put on here, but because Bill's gone and this went quite a bit longer, think of a day in August we can do a retreat that we can all get together and share some food with our administrators and our superintendent and talk about what's coming up for the next year. Hopefully we'll have a non-COVID year and more of a normal year. So I just threw that out there. Mark, you had two things you wanted to do, an outdoor pavilion, and you had a statement you wanted to read. And then I've got one last thought, and then anybody else.
All right, so outdoor pavilion, I've thrown this out there, something for us to think about as we get into the next budget season. I think it would be great if we had a permanent structure outdoors that classes could be held in, that was comfortable for the students and teachers, and was COVID safe, or whatever the next pandemic is. So I just want us to think about building a such structure at both campuses.
And Mark, it's interesting because at one time we had talked about over where the school buses park, of putting a roof up over there so that we would have, if it was, raining or something, people could go under it. And then in the wintertime, the buses could park under it. So it's not something that hasn't been discussed in the past. So why don't we, Peter, make sure that's on the agenda, and at budget time, or not, make sure it's in the minutes, and then at budget time, Mark, we can have that discussion for both buildings.
In bold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there another discussion on the pavilion? Anything anybody else wants to say before Mark moves on? Go ahead, Chad.
Well, just hearing you say, you can't wait to get involved with the Wardsboro School when they start building bridges. It just sort of clicked with me that a covered bridge would be very fitting for our Vermont geography and serve the purpose. So again, kind of go into that STEAM idea, just to kind of include, along with Mark's idea of what this structure could be for either of both schools. Very neat idea, Mark. I really appreciate you bringing that to the table.
Maybe we can have the students build it.
Or we can go to one in South Newfane and bring it up to Dover. Okay, go ahead, Mark. You have a statement. I'm going to pass a copy out to our.
Okay. I actually, Rich, I wasn't going to read the whole thing now, just because it's late and it's pretty intense. The statement which Rich is handing out, and I'll send out to everybody, is in regards to all the mass shootings and gun violence that have been headlining the news of recent. And the gist of it is that there's something that we can do, all of us. Pay attention to those around us, whether they're friends or family, brothers, sisters, strangers. And if people are in any sort of distress, whether they're consistently angry, help them get support on how to manage that anger. If they're depressed or isolating themselves, or feeling bullied or anything along those lines, be an ear for them, somebody that they can talk to, and let other people know that that's going on with them, so that other people are also aware and observing those people. So people that need help get it, whether just talking to one of our new school counselors that's going to be hired soon, or one of our teachers, or a family member. Just be aware of every human being around. It's really important. We are all, in one way or another, brothers or sisters. We're fellow humans. Let's just watch out for each other. We're not going to prevent every disaster out there, but maybe reaching out to one person, we may be able to prevent one disaster, or just one person going down the drain themselves. So that's the gist of the statement, and I think that's enough. Thank you for letting me share that.
And I got to tell you, one of the things Mark puts in here is, if you see something, say something. And I think the school's done really well. There was an issue at Leland and Gray right after the last shooting, where a student said something on a bus, and we're going to talk about it at the Wyndham Central meeting, but they followed the protocol. They talked with law enforcement, who did an investigation, found it to have been taken out of context, but Bill and Bob, the principal at Leland and Gray, had connected with the press had sent out a letter or a something, I don't know if it was an email or a media blast or something to all the parents explaining what it was. So their child went home and talked to them about it. And it was handled very well. And it was something that, 25 years ago, we never talked about. And then the last thing is, every time these happen, I had an incident where I was running out the door because I was late for doing something, and my daughter was on the phone and I didn't get to speak to her very long, and just said, "I'll talk to you later, honey." And it almost wound up that I never got to talk to her again. So I think at the end, Mark says, give your loved ones a hug all the time and tell them you love them. And I agree with you, Mark. Thank you for bringing that up.
If I could just say one more thing, which it's really important that our schools are safe spaces. And I absolutely believe that they are. I think that I think that our administrators and our staff have really created environments that our students feel appreciated, loved, and safe in. And it's an honor to be a board member for schools that are like that.
Okay, we didn't, for some reason, I don't know if it's because we were going to discuss it, but I need to get approval for pay warrants. So we have pay warrants in the amount of $328,698.74. And I believe everybody got them last week. I think on Thursday they came out. It seemed like it was a little earlier than normal. Were there any questions on those? Did anybody have any issues?
I'll move them if you can read that number again.
Okay, so Peter, it's Mark's moving to sign pay warrants in the amount of $328,698.74.
Got it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Chad second. Everybody was scared. The number was kind of big. I understand. If there's no discussion, are you ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, it appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is unanimous, so that's good. We got that done. Mark, we're gonna move into executive session. But Mark, you had
Some VSBA dates.
You had some dates you want to talk about.
Yep. So on June 9th, on Thursday, there's a webinar that the SBA is putting on policy governance, which is a really interesting topic. On August 4th, and that's from noon to 1 p.m. On August 4th, there's another webinar, noon to 1 p.m. On of all things, Robert's Rules of Order. The executive director of the VSBA, who's a lawyer, will be presenting on that. On September 8th, from noon to 1, there's a VSBA resolutions webinar. So if you're interested in hearing about all the resolutions that have been put forward, that's a great place to hear about them and ask questions if you have. And October 22nd is the VSBA's annual meeting. I'm not sure where it will be held. It will be in person, and it will be up north someplace. But every board member is invited. I've never been to one, at least in person. So Rich might be able to talk more about what they're like, but yeah. And if we can, if it's okay with the members of the board, if we can leave these dates on the agendas moving forward so that people have them, and I will add more to them as I get them.
I do know that Bill usually sends them out too, when they come out, and every board member should get them in their board email, right, Mark, or not?
No, every board member should, and what they send out is an overall newsletter. I'm just pulling dates out and kind of making it more concise for people.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Is there any other questions? Okay, Our next board meeting's June 20th in Wardsboro at 6 p.m. And I think we do have one executive session item for personnel. Or actually, I asked Bill and Kate and I talked about this when we set up the agenda. The executive session, was a recommendation from Pietro to be read. I guess in another school in the district, they didn't like us just saying we were moving the executive session for personnel. So I would need somebody to read the executive session item and make the motion. Peter, once we get the motion and get everybody out of here, then we will we'll finish up. I'll send you an email again, and you know we have just the one person in the building, right?
Terrific.
Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
So I'll read it. I'll just say that having attended feels like hundreds of board meetings from districts around the state. This is the way almost all of them enter executive session. So this is the norm, I guess. I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding individual personnel information. Which one is that we're going with? Individual personnel information would be disclosed. I make a motion for the board to enter executive session under Title I, Section 313 of the Vermont statute for the evaluation. I don't know what we're going in for.
Appointment
For the appointment.
Of the appointment or employment of a public employee.
There we go. 313A3, final decision, if any, in open session.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Kate seconds it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous decision. So public, if you want, he'll put you out in the waiting room, and when we come back out of executive session, we can let you in if you're still there. If not, it'll be in the minutes if any decisions made. We appreciate the input from the public tonight. It was real good to have you all here. And we're gonna now move into executive session. We gotta kick you out too, boss. Yeah. Thank you. So by unanimous consent, we came out of executive session at 9 o'clock, 8:58. Somebody want to make a motion? Go ahead, Mark.
I move that we allow the chair to sign the professional contract for Rebecca Kerr for $28,266.
I'll second that.
Wait, can you say the number again? I think it was
28266. Kate seconds it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it unanimously. The ayes have it. Hey, folks, I need to tell you all, we covered a lot of business. We had a lot of good discussion tonight. I hope everybody felt heard. And I think it was a really, really good meeting. Makes me feel really good. So we also kept it just under 3 hours, as somebody says those magic words right now.
I make a motion to adjourn at 8:59 p.m.
Thank you, Kate. Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye, and we're out of here.
Good night.